Welcome to World Literature. I'm Dr. Mohammed Rawishi, and over the next 3 hours, we're gonna embark on an extraordinary journey through the world's greatest literature traditions. This course will transform how you read, think about, and engage with stories from every corner of our planet. Course outline. Introduction, Why Study World Literature, Chapter 1, Foundations of World Literature, Chapter 2, Medieval and Renaissance Literature, Chapter 3, Enlightenment to Romanticism, Chapter 4, Modern and Contemporary World Literature, Core Concepts in World Literature, Interactive Learning Activities, Case Study, Heroism Across Cultures, Writing and presentation skills, assessment overview, technology and world literature, challenges in teaching and learning world literature, sources for further study, summary of key takeaways, reflection and self-assessment, call to action, embrace the stories of the world. Now let's move to learning objectives, and they are bold, comprehensive knowledge of major world literature traditions, understanding how historical contexts, religious movements, political changes, and social transformations have shaped literary production across different civilizations and time periods. Learn to analyze literary texts using sophisticated critical approaches, comparing narrative techniques, themes, and systematic choices across cultures, while recognizing both universal patterns and culturally specific elements construct coherent, well-supported written and oral responses to literature, demonstrating our ability to synthesize complex ideas, support arguments with textual evidence, and communicate interpretations effectively. Bridge historical literature themes with contemporary global issues, recognizing how timeless questions about justice, identity, power, and human nature continue to resonate in our modern world and personal experiences. Now let's move to learning outcomes, and they are recognize and categorize key literary genres, influential figures, and major movements from around the world, understanding their historical contexts and lasting impact on global literary culture, apply literary terminology and critical things frameworks to analyze texts deeply, uncovering layers of meaning through close reading and theoretical approaches. Examine how different cultures approach similar themes, recognizing both universally human concerns and culturally specific expressions while avoiding ethnocentric assumptions. Express your literary insights clearly and persuasively through well-structured essays, engaging presentations, and thoughtful class discussions that showcase your analytical abilities. Now let's go to introduction. uh, Universal language. Why study world literature? Literature transcends borders, languages, and time periods to connect us with the fundamental experiences that define humanity. Through stories, we discover that despite our differences, we share common dreams, fears, and struggles and triumphs. Think about it, whether you you're reading an ancient Mesopotamian epic or a contemporary Nigerian novel, you encounter characters who struggle with mortality, who seek meaning, who face moral dilemmas. The specific culture context differ dramatically, but the underlying human questions remain remarkably consistent. Every culture has developed its own rich literary traditions, from ancient oral epics passed down through generations to contemporary digital narratives that reach global audiences instantly. These works serve as windows into diverse worldviews, historical contexts, and cultural values that have shaped societies throughout history. When you read world literature, you're not just learning about other cultures abstractly. You're entering into their ways of seeing, thinking, and being. Now let's go to cultural understanding. Literature reveals the values, beliefs, and social structures of civilizations across time and space, fostering cross-cultural empathy and awareness, universal human experiences, storytelling in humanity's oldest art form, helping us make sense of existence, transmit wisdom, and explore what it means to be human course journey. This presentation guides you through literary traditions, all wide develops critical analysis skills, and connects classic texts or texts to contemporary issues. We will see that ancient literature isn't dead history, but living conversation with questions that still matter today. Now let's move to chapter 1. Foundations of World Literature, the Birth of Storytelling. Long before writing systems emerged, humans gathered around fires to share stories, tales of creation, heroic deeds, moral lessons, and explanations of natural phenomena. These oral traditions formed the bedrock of world literatures, with skilled storytellers memorizing thousands of lines and adapting narratives for each audience. The transition from oral to written literature marked a revolutionary moment in human history. Ancient civilizations began recording their greatest stories on clay tablets, papers, scrolls, and palm leaves, preserving narratives that might otherwise have been lost. These early texts reveal sophisticated literary techniques, complex characterizations, and profound philosophical insight that continue to resonate today. These weren't primitive stories. The Epic of Gilgamesh, composed around 2100 BCE, explores existential themes with um, psychological sophistication that rivals the modern literature. These ancient writers understood pacing, symbols, character development, and thematic complexity. Now let's go to the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest surviving epic poem, composed in ancient Mesopotamia around 2100 BCE, explores themes of friendship, mortality, and the quest for mortality through the adventures of King Gilgamesh. The Iliad, Homer's masterpiece, captured the final year of the Trojan War, examining honor, rage, fate, and the human cost of conflict while establishing narrative conversations that would influence Western literature for millennia. The Mahabharata, Indian monumental epic, contains over 100,000 verses exploring dharma, duty, complex family uh, dynamics, philosophical discourse, and one of the world's literature's most profound spiritual texts, the Bhagavad Gita. Quote about ancient epics. These ancient epics remind us that the foundational and the fundamental questions of human existence, how to live ethically, how to face mortality, what makes life meaningful, have occupied storytellers across all cultures since civilization began. Mythology and religion played central roles in shaping these early narratives. Creation myths explained cosmic origins, hero tales modeled virtuous behavior, and religious texts provided moral frameworks for entire citizens. The interweaving of the sacred and the literary created works that functioned simultaneously as entertainment, education, and spiritual guidance, demonstrating literature's power to shape cultural identity and transmit values across generations. Now let's go to chapter 2, medieval and Renaissance literature. The medieval period witnessed the unprecedented cross-cultural literary exchange as trade routes connected civilizations and facilitated the flow of ideas, stories, and artistic innovations. Arabic scholars preserved and translated Greek and Roman texts. Chinese poetry influenced Japanese court literature, and European writers adapted Eastern tales for Western audiences. This era of cultural synthesis produced some of the world's literature's most enduring masterpieces. Literature flourished precisely because of cross-cultural contact, not despite it. Now let's go to 8th to 11th century Islamic Golden Age. Arabic literature flourishes with poetry, philosophy, and story collections. The 1001 Night takes shape, weaving together Persian, Indian, and Arab tales. 11th century, the tale of Genji, Murasaki Shikobu creates the world's first novel in Japan, offering sophisticated uh, psychological portraits of court life and romantic relationships with complexity and nuance, showing how love intersects with politics, social status, and personal growth. It's not simple romance, but a profound exploration of human relationships and the passage of time. Now let's move to 14th century, the Divine Comedy. So, Dante Alighieri composes his journey through hell, purgatory, and paradise, synthesizing medieval theology, classical learning, and vernacular Italian poetry. 15th to 16th century Renaissance humanism. Revival of classical learning spreads across Europe, emphasizing individual creativity, secular themes, and the new literary forms, including the essay and the modern drama, especially in England with Shakespeare and Marlowe. The printing press, invented by Gutenberg around 1440, meant books could be mass-produced, spreading ideas faster than ever before. Now let's go to poetry, drama, and the prose. Medieval and Renaissance poetry ranged from courtly love lyrics to epic narratives employing complex metric schemes and allegorical frameworks. Persian ghazals, Japanese haiku, European sonnets, and Chinese regulated verse demonstrated poetry's universal appeal. Drama theater evolved from religious rituals into sophisticated entertainment with performances ranging from Japanese Nova plays to Italian commedia, um, Dulart, and English Renaissance drama exploring human psychology and the social dynamics. Prose fiction emerged as a distinct literary form, moving from exemplary tales and romance to make realistic character-driven narratives that laid groundwork for the modern novel. Now let's move to chapter 3, talking about the 18th and early 19th century, talking about Enlightenment to Romanticism. So the 18th and early 19th centuries witnessed the dramatic transformations in how literature engaged with society, nature, and the individual. The Enlightenment championed reason, scientific inquiry, and the social progress, while mysticism reacted by emphasizing emotion, imagination, and the sublime power of nature. These movements reshaped literary production worldwide, through they manifested differently across cultures. Mm. The Enlightenment was strongest in France, England, and the parts of Germany. Romanticism spread more widely, influencing writers from Russia to Latin America, from England to Poland. But these weren't just European phenomena. Similar tensions between reason and emotion, tradition and innovation spread in literary movements worldwide. Now let's move to reason and social critics. Enlightenment writers wielded satire and philosophical prose to change and to challenge religious dogma, political tyranny, and social injustice, advocating for nationality, tolerance, and human rights as foundations for a better society. Emotion and individualism. Romantic authors celebrated individual feeling, creative genius, and authentic emotional expression, rejecting enlightenment, rationalism in favor of passion, imagination, and exploration of inner psychological depths. Romantics valued spontaneity over rules, feeling, overthinking the individual over society. They believed that the Enlightenment workshop of reason was making people into machines, destroying what was most human about us. They turned it to emotion, intuition, and imagination as source of truth that reason couldn't access. Now let's move to natural or nature as inspiration. Romantics found spiritual renewal and artistic inspiration in natural landscapes, seeing nature as a manifestation of the divine and a refuge from industrialization, dehumanizing effects. Revolution and change, both movements responded to political upheavals, the American and the French revolutions, independence movements, and the social reform, using literature to imagine and advocate for new social order. Literature became a tool for political change, not just entertainment or moral instruction. Now let's move to representatives, authors, and their contributions. Voltaire, France, 1694 to 1778, master of satirical prose. Voltaire's candidate attacked the philosophical optimism, religious hypocrisy, and social injustice through darkly comic adventures. His wit and irrelevance made complex Enlightenment ideas accessible while championing tolerance and reason. John Wolfgang von Goethe, Germany, 1749 to 1832. Goethe bridged Enlightenment and romantic sensibilities in works like Faust and The Sorrows of Young Werther or Werther, exploring individual striving, passionate emotion, and humanity's relationship with knowledge and desire. He influenced everyone from romantic poets to modern philosophers like Nietzsche. Now let's go to William Wordsworth, England from 1770 to 1850. A founder of English Romanticism, Wordsworth revolutionized poetry by writing a natural language about ordinary subjects, celebrating nature's spiritual power and childhood's imaginative vitality in works like lyrical ballads. Alexander Pushkin, Russia from 1799 to 1837, often called the founder of modern Russian literature. Pushkin combined romantic passion with formal brilliance in very no, in verse novels like Eugene Onegin, establishing Russian as literary language equal to any in Europe. His verse novel Eugene Onegin tells the story of a jaded aristocrat who rejects a young woman's love only to fall in love with her years later when she's married and no longer available. It explores the themes of mixed opportunity, social artifice versus authentic feeling, and the consequences of romantic cynicism. Now let's go to uh, talk about that these movements left lasting legacies. The Enlightenment's emphasis on critical thinking and social responsibility, and the Romanticism validation of individual creativity and emotional authenticity. Together, they established literature as a vital force for social commentary, personal expression, and cultural transformation. After these movements, literature couldn't just be entertainment or moral instruction. It had to engage seriously with the world, had to reflect individual consciousness, had to matter. Now let's move to chapter 4, talking about modern and contemporary world literature. The 20th and 21st century have witnessed an unprecedented explosion of literary voices from previously marginalized regions and communities. Decolonization movements, globalization, technological advances, and increased literacy have democratized literary production, allowing authors from Africa, Asia, Latin America, and indigenous communities worldwide to tell their own stories on their own terms. This shift has fundamentally transformed world literature, challenging Western dominance and enriching global literary culture with diverse perspectives that were always there but weren't being heard. Now let's move to voices of liberation and identity. Tuna, Achebe, Nigeria, things fall apart. Revolutionized African literature by presenting pre-colonial Igbo society with dignity and complexity, challenging stereotypical colonial narratives and inspiring generations of African writers to reclaim their stories. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Colombia, mother of magical realism. Marquez blended fantastical elements with political reality in 100 Years of Solitude, creating a uniquely Latin American narrative style that influences global literature. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Nigeria, contemporary novelist addressing gender, race, imagination, and identity through world like Americana and Half of a Yellow Sun, bringing African women's perspectives to global audiences. But I have to say that exploring what it means to be Nigerian in America, what it means to be a woman in modern Africa, how colonialism's legacies continue to shape identity. Now let's move to evolving the literary forms. We are talking about magical realism, blending the supernatural with everyday reality to explore historical trauma, political oppression, and cultural identity, particularly in Latin America and the post-colonial contexts. Then modernist experimentation, breaking conventional narrative structures through stream of consciousness fragmentation and multiple perspectives to capture modern consciousness complexity. Writers like James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, and William Faulkner in the West, and the writers worldwide rejected linear storytelling. Now let's go to digital narratives, emerging forms including hypertext fiction, interactive storytelling, and transmedia narratives that leverage technology to create new reading experiences and challenge traditional authorship. Autofiction, blurring boundaries between autobiography and fiction to explore personal identity, memory, and truth in the contemporary world. Writers like Carl Ove or any Ernux write about their real lives, but use novelistic techniques or write fiction that's clearly drawn from their lives. Where does autobiography and the fiction begin? Autofiction says that distinction doesn't matter. All writing about the self involves shaping, selecting, and fictionalizing. Now let's go to quote about literatures as the vehicle. Literature has become a crucial vehicle for marginalized communities to assert their humanity, challenge dominant narratives, and participate in global conversations about justice, identity, and belonging. Today's world literature reflects our interconnected reality while honoring the specific struggles and triumphs of local communities for communities whose stories has been told by others, often in dehumanizing ways, having the power to tell your own story is profound. African writers telling African stories, indigenous writers claiming indigenous narratives, LGBTQs plus writers exploring queer experiences, disabled writers centering disability perspectives. Now let's move to contemporary global issues. Contemporary literature increasingly addresses urgent global issues, climate change, migration, and refugee experiences, technological transformation, gender and sexual identity, racial justice, and the legacy of colonialism. These works demonstrate literature's continued relevance as a tool for understanding our complex world, fostering empathy across differences, and imagining alternative futures, the democratization of publishing through independent presses and digital platforms has further amplified diverse voices, ensuring that world literature truly represents the world's multiplicity. Not just the perspectives of the world, the powerful. Now let's go to core concepts in world literature. Beneath the surface differences of language, culture, and historical context, literature reveals profound communities in human experiences and artistic expression. Understanding these core concepts enables you to navigate diverse texts with confidence, recognizing both universal patterns and cultural specific innovations. Now let's go to the second slide, talking about universal themes across cultures. Heroism from ancient warriors to modern activists. Cultures define and celebrate heroic qualities through narratives of courage, sacrifice, and transformation. Identity, self discovery, belonging, authenticity, and the search for meaning drive narratives about personal and cultural identity formation, survival stories of endurance against adversity, natural disasters, war, oppression reveal human resilience and the will to overcome existential threats. Justice literature explores questions of right and wrong, fairness and corruption, revenge and forgiveness across legal, social, and cosmic dimensions. Community, the tension between individual desires and collective responsibilities appears in texts examining family, nation, tradition, and social bonds. Greek tragedy often shows this tension. Antigone must choose between family duty and state law. Modern literature explores how communities form, maintain boundaries, include and exclude members. Individual versus society is perhaps the central tension in modern literature. Now let's go to essential literary devices, and they are symbolism, objects, characters, or events representing abstract ideas or concepts beyond their literal meaning. Allegory, extended metaphors where entire narratives operate on symbolic and literal levels simultaneously. Narrative structure, how stories are organized chronologically through flashbacks, multiple perspectives, or circular patterns, characterizations, techniques for developing complex, believing, or believable characters through action, dialogue, and description. Setting, psychological, temporal, and cultural contexts that shape narratives and character experiences. Setting isn't just a backdrop. It influences what characters can do, think, and be. A story set in 19th century England versus the 21st century Nigeria creates completely different possibilities. Gothic literature uses setting, crumbling castles, wild landscapes to create mood. Naturalists literature shows determining character fate. Now let's go to the power of comparative analysis, comparing texts across cultures, revealing how different societies approach similar themes while highlighting unique cultural perspectives. This intercultural dialogue deepens appreciation for both universal human concerns and the rich diversity of human expression. Analyzing comparatively, consider what cultural values underlie different treatments of similar themes. How do historical contexts shape narrative choices? What can we learn from examining texts in conversation with each other? Sometimes a text from one tradition illuminates something about a text from another tradition that you wouldn't see otherwise. Reading African and European colonial literature together reveals how colonialism shaped both uh, colonized and colonizer. Comparative analysis isn't about judging which tradition is better, it's about understanding how different traditions create meaning differently. So, thank you so much. We'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow, the next session. Until next time, tata for now.